Someone is going to read this and realize they made a mistake they cannot undo. I want to say that gently, because this video is not about blame. It is not about shame. Most people who bring home a kitten too early do it because nobody told them the truth, because the person selling the kitten said they were ready, because they looked healthy and bright-eyed and completely fine. Because 8 weeks sounds like a long time when you are holding something that small and that perfect and that alive in your hands. It is not a long time. 8 weeks is not arbitrary. It is not a number a vet made up or a guideline someone posted on the internet. 8 weeks is a biological threshold, a neurological deadline, a window that opens and then quietly, permanently, without any visible sign on the outside closes. And what gets built inside a kitten during those weeks, and what gets left unfinished when the window closes too soon, shapes everything. Every relationship they will ever have, every fear they will ever carry, every moment of trust or terror that defines the life you are about to give them. This is the full truth, the one most breeders do not tell you, the one most pet stores do not know, the one most owners only find years later, looking back, finally understanding why their cat was always just a little bit unreachable. Stay until the end, because the last thing I am going to tell you is for the people who already brought their kitten home too early, and it is the most important thing in this entire video, because the window may have closed, but the story is not over. 1. The first weeks are not just growth, they are construction. Most people think of a young kitten's early weeks as a period of physical development, getting bigger, getting stronger, learning to walk and eat and use a litter box. That is the visible part. Underneath it, something far more consequential is happening. From birth through approximately 16 weeks, a kitten's brain is undergoing a process that neuroscientists call the critical period, a window of neurological development during which the brain is not simply growing, but actively constructing the frameworks it will use to interpret the world for the rest of its life. During this window, the brain's architecture for emotional regulation, social bonding, fear response, stress tolerance, and trust formation is being built in real time, and it is being built from experience. From what the kitten encounters, how those encounters feel, and whether the responses they generate are met with safety or with isolation. Think of it this way. A human brain takes years to build these frameworks. A kitten's brain compresses much of that same construction into 16 weeks, which means the intensity of what happens in those weeks, the density of what is being formed, is extraordinary. And the most critical phase of that construction, the phase where the most fundamental frameworks are being laid down, happens between week 2 and week 8. Exactly the weeks most kittens are taken too early. 2. What the mother is actually doing and why nothing replaces it. When people think about a kitten with their mother, they think about feeding, warmth, basic survival. But a mother cat is doing something that goes far beyond nutrition and temperature regulation. She is performing a function that researchers now understand as neurological programming, and she is the only one who can do it the way it needs to be done. In the first weeks of life, before a kitten's eyes are even open, the mother's presence regulates everything. Her heartbeat sets the rhythm their nervous system learns to call calm. Her scent becomes the baseline of what safe smells like, a chemical signature so deeply encoded that it functions as a reference point the brain will use for the rest of its life. Her warmth is not just physical comfort, it is the temperature at which a kitten's developing nervous system learns it is okay to be alive. But perhaps most critically, the mother teaches the stress response. When a kitten is startled, frightened, or separated even briefly, their cortisol spikes. Their nervous system fires an alarm, and the mother's response to that alarm is what teaches the kitten how to come back down. She returns, she grooms them, her presence biochemically lowers the cortisol, and the kitten's brain records this. Alarm fired, alarm resolved, I am safe again. That recording happens hundreds of times in the first 8 weeks. And through that repetition, the brain builds what researchers call stress resilience, the neurological capacity to experience fear, disturbance, or separation and return to baseline without getting stuck. A 2017 study published in Developmental Psychobiology found that mammals separated from their mothers during critical developmental windows showed measurably altered cortisol response patterns, not just in puppyhood or kittenhood, but throughout their entire lives. The stress regulation system that was supposed to be calibrated by maternal interaction was calibrated differently, or not fully calibrated at all. Your mother cat is not just feeding her kittens. She is teaching their brains how to survive being afraid. And 6 weeks is not enough time to finish that lesson. 3. What 6 weeks looks like on the outside, and what is actually happening inside. Here is the thing that makes early separation so easy to miss. A 6-week-old kitten looks fine. They are walking, they are playing. Their eyes are bright and their coat is clean and they respond to sound and movement, and they will crawl into your hand and purr and seem, by every visible measure, completely healthy and completely ready. What you cannot see is what is incomplete. At 6 weeks, the immune system is still largely dependent on maternal antibodies. The gut microbiome, which research increasingly shows has direct connections to emotional regulation and stress response, is still being established through contact with the mother and littermates. The social skills that will determine how this kitten relates to other cats for the rest of its life are still being learned through the rough and tumble of litter play. And the neurological stress regulation system, the one being calibrated through hundreds of daily interactions with the mother, is approximately halfway finished. Halfway. The brain at 6 weeks has built the alarm system beautifully. It knows how to fire. What it has not yet fully learned is how to stop. Research from the Journal of Veterinary Behavior found that cats separated from their mothers before 8 weeks showed significantly higher rates of aggression, fearfulness, compulsive behaviors, and stress-related illness compared to cats separated at 8 weeks or later. Not marginally higher, significantly, measurably, consistently across studies. They also showed impaired social bonding, not an inability to bond, but a different quality of bond, more anxious, more ambivalent, more easily disrupted by change. The kitten you brought home at 6 weeks is not a kitten who is fine. The kitten you brought home at 6 weeks is a kitten who is performing fine with an incomplete nervous system that is going to spend the rest of its life working harder than it should have to. For what the littermates were giving that you did not know to replace. The mother is not the only one the kitten loses when they are taken too early. The littermates matter in ways that are only beginning to be fully understood. In the weeks between 4 and 8, kitten siblings are doing something that looks like play and is actually intensive education. The rough and tumble wrestling, the biting that gets too hard and triggers a yelp, the pouncing and chasing and pinning, all of it is the mechanism through which kittens learn the single most important social skill they will ever need. How much is too much? Bite inhibition, the learned understanding of how hard a bite is acceptable before it causes real pain or real damage, is not something kittens are born knowing. It is something they learn through the immediate, honest feedback of their siblings. Bite too hard and the littermate cries and the play stops. The equation is direct and the learning is immediate. A kitten taken at 6 weeks has had 2 fewer weeks of that education. 2 weeks that sound small and represent an enormous amount of learning time in a brain developing at this speed. And the result shows up in ways their owners often find confusing or hurtful. The cat who plays too rough, who bites too hard and seems not to notice, who escalates when they should de-escalate, who never quite learned where the line was because the siblings who were supposed to teach them were taken away before the lesson finished. But the littermates teach something beyond bite inhibition. They teach the kitten that other living things are safe, that bodies can be close without being dangerous, that contact is comfort and not threat, that the world contains creatures who are like you and toward whom you can feel something that is not fear. A kitten taken too early misses the final crucial weeks of that lesson, and the brain that was supposed to learn that other beings are fundamentally safe sometimes learns something more cautious instead, something more defended, something that spends the rest of its life deciding whether trust is worth the risk. 5. The behaviors you see for years and where they actually came from. This is the section that makes people sit very still. Because this is where the early separation stops being a fact about kittenhood and becomes a map of the cat you have been living with. The cat who startles at sounds that should not startle them. The cat who never fully relaxes. The one who allows closeness and then suddenly, for no visible reason, withdraws. The one who plays too rough, who bites without warning, who hides when guests arrive and does not come out until the house is quiet again. The one you always described as skittish or intense or difficult or just a little different. Researchers studying the long-term outcomes of early separated cats have found a consistent behavioral signature across multiple studies. Higher baseline anxiety, lower stress tolerance, more reactive fear responses, difficulty with environmental changes, challenges with social bonding that manifest not as a lack of love but as an inconsistency in how that love is expressed, present and then absent, warm and then withdrawn, close and then suddenly inexplicably gone. None of these behaviors are the cat being bad. None of them are the cat being broken. None of them are the cat failing to love you. They are the cat doing the best they can with a nervous system that was asked to start operating before it finished being built. And once you understand that, once you stop reading those behaviors as rejection or aggression or personality flaws, and start reading them as the echoes of something that happened before you even met, everything changes. The cat is not difficult. The cat is working harder than you know. 6. What the research says about the window that closes and what it actually means. I want to be precise here, because this is where the science gets both harder and more hopeful than most people expect. The critical period is real. It closes. The neurological frameworks that were supposed to be built through maternal interaction and sibling socialization cannot be fully rebuilt later in the same way. That is not pessimism. That is neuroscience. But closed does not mean sealed. Research on neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to form new connections and adapt existing pathways throughout life, has found that while the critical period represents the most efficient window for certain types of learning, the brain retains meaningful capacity for change and healing far beyond it. The connections that were not made in kittenhood can be approximated through later experience. The stress regulation that was not fully calibrated can be supported through consistent, patient, predictable care. It takes longer, it requires more. It does not produce the exact same result that those 8 weeks would have produced. But it is not nothing. A 2020 study from Applied Animal Behavior Science found that early separated cats in stable, low-stress home environments with consistent human interaction showed measurable improvement in anxiety markers over time. Not complete resolution, measurable improvement, meaningful improvement, the kind of improvement that changes a life. Which means the kitten who came home too soon is not a fixed outcome. They are an ongoing story, and the person writing the rest of that story is you. 7. What you can do right now today, regardless of when they came home. This is what I promised you. For everyone who is reading this and doing the math and realizing the kitten they brought home at 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, the one sleeping in the next room right now may be carrying something they did not know to look for. Here is what the research says helps. Not fixes, helps, because your cat does not need fixing. Your cat needs what the early weeks could not fully give them. Predictability above everything else. The stress regulation system that was not fully calibrated by the mother can be supported by a human environment that behaves consistently. Same feeding times, same routines, same tone of voice, same responses to the same situations. Every time your cat's nervous system fires an alarm and the world responds the same safe way it responded yesterday, a small piece of what was missing gets approximated. It is slow. It is worth every day of it. Never punish a fear response. A cat who startles, hides, hisses from a place of fear, or reacts with more intensity than the situation seems to warrant is not misbehaving. They are running an alarm system that was calibrated too sensitive. Punishment does not recalibrate it. Punishment confirms it. The world is unpredictable and unsafe, and the alarm was right to fire. Every time you respond to a fear response with patience instead of punishment, you are doing the work the critical period was supposed to do. Physical contact on their terms always. The bonding capacity of an early separated cat is real, but it operates differently. It needs to be built through 1,000 small moments of contact that the cat chose, that the cat controlled, that the cat was never pushed past. Let them come to you. Let them set the pace. Every approach they initiate is a brick in the wall the early weeks left unfinished. Play every day. The simulation of the hunt sequence, stalk, chase, catch, release, does 2 things simultaneously for an early separated cat. It depletes the excess arousal that an oversensitive stress system accumulates, and it builds confidence. A cat who catches their prey is a cat whose nervous system gets to experience completion, gets to experience being capable, gets to experience the world as something that can be navigated successfully. 10 minutes a day, every day. It matters more than it looks like it does. And finally, patience measured in years, not weeks. The cat you have is the cat that was shaped by weeks you were not there for. You did not cause what happened before you, but you are the entire environment of what happens next. And every day that you show up consistently, safely, predictably, warmly, every day that the alarm fires and you prove it did not need to, you are writing new data into a nervous system that learned the world too fast and too soon. You are not fixing a broken cat. You are finishing something that started without you. And that is not a burden. That is one of the most profound things one living creature can do for another. Show up every day, be the thing that proves the alarm wrong. Because somewhere in the neuroscience, somewhere in the slow accumulation of safe days and consistent mornings and gentle hands and predictable voices, the brain that started building before it was ready starts to find something it missed. Something that feels eventually enough like home. If this changed something for you, share it. Send it to someone who just brought a kitten home. Send it to someone who has always wondered why their cat is the way they are. Send it to the person who is about to pick up a 5-week-old kitten because someone told them they were ready. Drop a comment telling me about your cat. How old were they when they came home? What they are like. Whether any of this landed differently now. Because every one of those stories matters. And every one of those cats deserves someone who finally understands what they have been carrying. Next week, what happens in the brain the moment a kitten first hears your voice, the neuroscience of that single sound, and why the voice they hear in their first weeks becomes the voice their nervous system calls safe for the rest of their life.